You send a text and wait. Minutes pass, hours, days. They've seen it, but there's no reply. The silence is louder than words. The more you try to connect, the more distant they seem. It feels unfair. You've been present, consistent, and invested. But somehow, that presence is taken for granted. The harder you hold on, the easier it is for them to pull away. People rarely value what is always available. Think about the times you've missed someone deeply. Was it because they constantly checked in, always responded instantly? Or was it because their absence left a space you couldn't ignore? When something is constant, it fades into the background. When it disappears, it becomes noticeable. This is how people start to miss you, not when you push for attention, but when you step away and create space. This isn't about manipulation or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about recognizing when you're giving too much and allowing yourself to pull back. Not as a test, not as a game, but as a way to regain balance. The shift happens when you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself. When you stop proving your worth, people begin to recognize it on their own. It's easy to think that if you just give a little more time, more effort, more love, then maybe they'll appreciate you. But the truth is, overinvestment often leads to being undervalued. People feel absence. They notice when something that was always there suddenly isn't. But this only works if you truly let go. If you're stepping back just to see if they notice, you're still holding on. The real change happens when you shift your focus, when you become busy with your own life, when your happiness is no longer tied to their response, when you stop waiting. That's when they start to wonder. That's when they start to feel your absence. Not because you forced them to, but because you finally let them. You know you should step back, but something keeps pulling you back in. Even when the signs are clear, unanswered messages, fading interest, growing distance, you hesitate. Your mind tells you to move on, yet your heart refuses to let go. Letting go feels unnatural because human connection is deeply ingrained in us. From the moment we are born, attachment is how we survive. Closeness brings a sense of security, while distance triggers discomfort. When someone pulls away, it's not just their absence that hurts, it's the fear of losing something familiar. The brain treats emotional loss like physical pain. The same neural pathways that activate when you touch something hot also light up when you experience rejection. That's why detachment feels like withdrawal. When you invest deeply in someone, they become part of your thoughts, routines, and emotions. Stepping back can feel like losing a part of yourself, but holding on won't bring them closer. It only makes the distance more painful. Think about a time when someone became distant. Your first instinct was probably to try harder, reach out more, prove your value. But did that pull them back in, or did it push them further away? When you chase, the dynamic changes. Instead of feeling your presence as a choice, they experience it as pressure. And pressure rarely leads to appreciation. The more you push, the less space they have to miss you. Emotional detachment isn't just about stepping back. It's about breaking patterns. It's resisting the urge to check their social media, to send another message, to replay old conversations. It's sitting with discomfort instead of trying to escape it. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means accepting reality instead of fighting it. If someone values you, they will feel your absence. If they don't, no amount of effort will make them see your worth. Either way, detachment frees you from the exhausting cycle of waiting for validation. And when you stop holding on, truly stop, you create space for something powerful to happen. The focus shifts from needing their presence to reclaiming your own. It won't be easy, but neither is staying in a place where you aren't valued. And when you finally step away, you'll realize something. The weight you were carrying wasn't love, it was fear. And you don't need to hold on to that anymore. You wonder if they miss you. You wonder if they even notice the silence, if they ever stop to think about where you went. But the real question is, do you miss yourself? When your thoughts revolve around someone else, you start fading into the background of your own life. You become more concerned with how they feel about you than how you feel about yourself. Their absence consumes you, and without realizing it, you make them the center of your emotional world. But the harder you hold on, the less they notice. That's the paradox. People don't miss what is always there. Letting others feel your absence isn't about games or manipulation. It's about recognizing that your presence has weight. And if someone isn't feeling it, it's because they've grown too used to it. You've given too much, been too accessible, left no room for them to wonder, to question, to feel the space where you used to be. And if they never have to feel that space, why would they miss you? Imagine your attention like a flame. If you place it too close, they shield themselves from the heat. But if you pull it back, they begin to notice the cold. That distance creates contrast, and contrast is what makes absence felt. When you're always available, there is no contrast, just the comfort of knowing you'll always be there. And comfort, though familiar, is rarely missed until it's gone. This is why shifting your focus back to yourself is so powerful. It's not about making them suffer your absence. It's about reclaiming the energy you've been pouring into someone who hasn't reciprocated. You've been giving them the best of your mind, your time, your emotions. And for what? For them to become indifferent to something they once found valuable. When you finally stop giving, when you pull your attention away, they feel the shift. And that shift is where longing begins. People don't miss what never leaves. They miss what was once there and is now gone. But for them to truly feel it, you have to mean it. You have to stop checking their social media, stop waiting for them to notice, stop making them the silent priority in your life. When your focus returns to you, when your energy is no longer theirs to absorb, something changes. They feel the absence, and they start to wonder. You don't need to force anyone to miss you. You just need to be someone who is worth missing. People don't miss what never leaves. They don't crave what is always within reach. If you are always available, always responding, always present, there is no reason for anyone to feel your absence. But when you pull back, when your presence shifts from a constant to a memory, that's when something changes. That's when someone starts to feel what life is like without you. Absence creates contrast. When you step away, a gap forms where your energy used to be, and that gap is what makes someone start to notice. Not because you forced it, not because you played a game, but because the space you once occupied is now empty. The mistake most people make is trying to manufacture this effect. They delay texts on purpose, pretend to be busy, or act indifferent in hopes of making the other person chase them. But real absence is only felt when it's genuine. When you truly redirect your attention elsewhere, not as a tactic but as a natural shift in focus, others sense the change. There is no greater loss than realizing someone who was once there simply isn't anymore. Think about the background music in a cafe. While it plays, you barely notice it. But the moment it stops, the silence feels loud. That's how absence works. When your attention, your energy, your presence was once woven into someone's daily routine, and then it disappears, they begin to feel the weight of what's missing. This isn't about ghosting or cutting someone off. It's about recognizing when your presence has lost its value and having the strength to step back. The truth is, people rarely appreciate what feels permanent. They assume it will always be there. But the second something they once took for granted is no longer easily available, their perception shifts. If you want someone to miss you, stop making them your focus. Stop wondering what they're thinking. Stop checking for signs. Stop shaping your actions around whether or not they notice. The moment you let go of the need to be missed is the moment your absence starts to be felt, And the irony is, the harder you try to make them miss you, the less likely they will. Why? Because neediness repels. When you act out of a desire to be noticed, that energy is transparent. But when you genuinely detach, when you stop centering them in your mind, that's when curiosity creeps in. Where did they go? Why aren't they reaching out? Have they moved on? The mind fixates on unfinished stories. When you were always present, always reaching, always responding, there was no uncertainty, no mystery, no space for reflection. But the moment you become unavailable, the moment you remove your energy, you give them something to think about. You don't need to send a message saying you've changed. You don't need to hint that you're pulling away. You simply need to let your absence do the talking. This is why self-focus is so important. If you shift your energy toward yourself, not to prove a point, not to make them jealous, but because you genuinely want to reconnect with yourself, your presence will become something that stands out in their mind. Not because you forced it, but because your detachment allows them to see what they lost. And if they don't, then they were never truly paying attention in the first place. Absence is most powerful when it's backed by confidence. When you are secure in yourself, when you are genuinely focused on your own growth, when you no longer need someone to validate your worth, your energy shifts. You become less predictable, you become more intriguing, and in that space, they begin to feel what they once had. The most unforgettable people are not the ones who begged to be noticed. They are the ones who gave everything, until one day they didn't, because nothing is louder than the silence of someone who once made you feel special, and then simply stopped. There comes a point when exhaustion outweighs attachment. You wake up feeling drained, not because of what someone did, but because of the energy you've spent thinking about them. The worrying, the waiting, the endless analysis of their words and actions, it all takes a toll. And the truth is, you can't keep giving away parts of yourself without consequence. Your emotional energy isn't limitless. Every moment you invest in someone who isn't investing in you is a withdrawal from your own well-being. And when that balance is off, you start to feel it. Mentally, emotionally, even physically. The weight of unreciprocated effort lingers in your chest, in your thoughts, in your inability to focus on yourself. This isn't just about stepping back from someone who isn't valuing you. It's about rebuilding the parts of yourself that have been left empty. Emotional detachment isn't the final step. It's the beginning of something else, renewal. And renewal only happens when you take all that energy that was once external and turn it inward. It starts with small shifts. Reclaiming your energy isn't about forcing yourself to move on overnight. It's about recognizing where your attention has been going and consciously choosing to redirect it. Instead of checking their social media, you read a book. Instead of waiting for a message, you go for a walk. Instead of questioning why they haven't reached out, you remind yourself that your peace doesn't depend on them. And then, something changes. The exhaustion starts to fade. The overthinking slows down. Your world, which had shrunk to the size of one person's presence, starts expanding again. The things you once loved, your interests, your goals, your dreams, begin to resurface, no longer overshadowed by the weight of missing someone. What people don't realize is that emotional detachment isn't about emptiness. It's about making space for something better. When you stop pouring all your energy into someone who doesn't see its value, you create room for things that actually fulfill you. And when you do that, your entire energy shifts. You don't have to chase, you don't have to prove, you don't have to hold on to someone in hopes they'll eventually notice what they had. The moment you start reclaiming your emotional space is the moment you become someone who is truly at peace. And when you reach that point, something incredible happens. Their absence stops feeling like a loss. It starts feeling like freedom. You don't realize how much something means to you until it's no longer there. It's a simple truth, yet it shapes human relationships in ways most people never notice. The absence of something once familiar creates a void that demands attention, not because it's forced, but because the mind can't help but notice when something is missing. This is why certain memories, certain people, certain moments linger. The ones that slip away quietly, without closure, without warning, are the ones that stay on our minds the longest. They create an open space where certainty once lived, and the brain, wired for patterns and predictability, tries to fill that space. But here's what most people get wrong. You don't make someone miss you by pulling away temporarily and waiting for them to react. You don't make them notice you by withholding affection as a tactic. That only creates resentment, not longing. Real absence is felt when it's rooted in genuine change, when you are no longer emotionally dependent on someone, when you stop seeking validation from their attention, your energy shifts, and energy is impossible to fake. Think of it this way: people sense emotional presence even when no words are spoken. They know when someone is still tethered to them, just as they know when someone has truly let go. When you detach with authenticity, it creates a ripple effect. They begin to wonder why. Not because you told them to, but because the connection they once felt is no longer there to reassure them. There is a stark difference between someone who steps back to test another person's reaction and someone who steps back because they have genuinely chosen themselves. The former feels temporary, like an act. The latter feels real, like a door that has quietly closed. And nothing makes someone reflect more than a door that doesn't swing back open. Absence, when done with intention, has weight. It isn't about making someone chase you, it's about making them realize what life feels like without you in it. But for them to truly feel that, you have to mean it. You have to reach a point where your world is full enough without them, where their presence is no longer something you need but something they have to earn. That's the difference between missing someone because they manipulated space and missing someone because their presence was truly valuable. And once you understand that, you'll never have to wonder again whether they notice you're gone. There's a fine line between distance that invites reflection and distance that shuts the door completely. The way you step away determines whether someone feels your absence or simply moves on. Detachment is about balance, holding space for yourself without becoming unreachable. Some people, after feeling undervalued, choose to detach by becoming emotionally cold. They stop engaging, stop caring, and shut people out as a form of self-protection. But closing yourself off isn't the same as reclaiming your power. True detachment isn't about turning off your emotions, it's about choosing where to invest them. Coldness is a defense mechanism. It says, I won't let anyone get close enough to hurt me again. But in doing so, it also blocks the possibility of meaningful connection. Healthy detachment, on the other hand, allows you to care without attachment to an outcome. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that if someone values you, they'll show it. And if they don't, you won't waste energy chasing what isn't meant for you. People sense the difference between someone who is distant out of anger and someone who is distant out of self-respect. The first creates tension, the second creates intrigue. When you withdraw with resentment, others feel the emotional resistance and react accordingly, often with their own defensiveness. But when you withdraw with a sense of calm certainty, it leaves an open space, one that allows others to notice your absence without feeling like they're being punished. Emotional detachment isn't about proving a point. It's about redirecting your energy where it belongs, toward yourself. When you are at peace with who you are, you don't need to use silence as a weapon. You don't need to cut someone off to make them realize your worth. You simply exist differently, and that alone changes how people experience your presence. People don't miss what feels bitter or hostile. They miss what once felt warm but is no longer within reach. If you want your absence to be felt, it has to come from a place of self-respect, not emotional shutdown. Because real detachment doesn't push people away. It allows the right ones to come closer. Some doors don't close with a slam. They stay slightly open, tempting you to peek inside, to wonder if you should step back in. That's what makes letting go difficult. It's not always about the person, but about the questions left behind. What if they change? What if I give it one more chance? What if I walk away just before things get better? But here's the truth. When something is right for you, it doesn't require constant convincing. You don't have to beg for presence, for effort, for reciprocity. What stays effortlessly was never at risk of being lost. What keeps slipping away was never truly in your hands. Letting go isn't an act of rejection. It's an acceptance of who they are, of what they gave, of what they couldn't give. It's understanding that some people come into your life as a lesson, not as a lifelong presence. And the lesson isn't about how to make them stay. It's about learning when to stop holding on. The real shift happens when you no longer need to force distance, when you stop looking over your shoulder to see if they've noticed you're gone, when your life becomes full again, not as a distraction, but as a reflection of what you deserve. And that's when something unexpected happens. Peace replaces longing. The energy that once felt chaotic settles. You stop wondering if they'll reach out, if they regret losing you. Their absence becomes neutral. And when that happens, when your absence carries no resentment and no expectation, that's when they truly feel it. Not because you tried to make them, but because they look back and realize you're no longer looking back at them. Some connections are meant to fade. Some people are meant to remember you, not keep you. And that's okay. Because your energy is no longer meant for someone who only knew how to take it. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below. What's the hardest part of letting go for you? And if this resonated, subscribe for more content that keeps you focused on the only person who truly deserves your attention, you. And if you're ready to shift your focus back to yourself and embrace emotional freedom, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's more content coming to help you stay grounded, self-assured, and in control of your energy. Don't just wait to be missed. Become someone who doesn't need to be.